everyone. I'm Jeff Hampton with the Hampton Law Firm. Thank you for joining us today on our YouTube channel. And today I want to talk to you about protective order laws in Texas. Maybe you're facing a protective order, or maybe you've issued a protective order against someone else, and maybe you want to know how to get it removed. How does this process work? If you wait around to the end of this video, I'll also give you a free ebook, What to Do If You've Been Charged with a Domestic Violence Case in Texas. Okay, let's jump right into this. What happens if you're hit with a protective order? What happens if you maybe you've just been, there's been a charge that's been brought against you, and usually this happens in one of two ways. A protective order or / restraining order, as some people call it in family court, that can arise out of a family court situation. Maybe there is a divorce that's going on. And then it can also happen out of an alleged domestic violence situation where it can happen by automatic operation of law. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about the family law aspect of this. Quite frankly, we're not family attorneys, and I always advise people when it comes to a divorce proceeding, it's good for you to go ahead and talk to a family lawyer about that. But I do want to talk to you for a few minutes about the situation where it would arise in a criminal case, okay? So the whole purpose of a protective order is to protect the alleged victims of domestic violence or stalking. They want to try to limit the ability for people to have contact with each other, and the law believes there needs to be this cooling off period that should take place. So what will happen is the grounds for a protective order, the grounds for one to be issued in Texas, there can be actual or threatened physical violence, psychological abuse, stalking, and then that's when you get into some of these other areas in the family side of things, that depletion of assets and different things like that we won't get into. But I want to talk for a few minutes about the domestic violence aspect of this. If you have been arrested for a domestic violence charge, there is normally going to be what's called an emergency protective order that will go into effect immediately for victims of domestic violence cases or sexual assault or sexual abuse or stalking. Okay, now normally that protective order can last anywhere between 30 to 60 days, all the way up to an extension of 90 days if necessary, if the courts believe that it's adequate in order to provide that protection. So the real question becomes this: what if you don't want there to be a protective order anymore? Maybe you're listening to me now, and maybe you're the alleged victim, and things maybe played out in a way at the time where the police made a suggestion that this needed to happen, and maybe you feel like that the way that took place, you want to be in a position now to potentially seek to have that protective order removed. Well, in order to do that, the alleged victim involved in the incident can make the request to have that protective order removed if they've made it perfectly clear to the court that they are not in fear of the individual that the protective order's been issued against, okay? That can be done through an affidavit. That could obviously be done through the attorney of the individual charged with domestic violence. But it's really important because one of the things, the consequences of violating a protective order, maybe you don't even feel like anything happened that was wrong, but if there's a protective order in place and you violate it, the consequences for that is up to a year in county jail and up to a $4,000 fine. It's actually a new offense. It's called violation of a protective order, Class A misdemeanor. So you don't want to put yourself in a position. I've represented a number of folks where the alleged assault, there was nothing to it. It wasn't based upon any real facts, but yet the individual got out of jail and immediately went straight back to the house to go speak to their girlfriend or boyfriend again, and the police were sitting there waiting, and they arrested him for violation of protective order. So it's very important that you comply with the conditions of that violation of that protective order in place so that you don't pick up that new offense, okay? So finally, how do you avoid those violations? Well, technically, a no contact order means you're not supposed to have any contact with the person involved that's listed as the victim. You're not supposed to reach out to them by social media or through any other means, even family members or different things like that. So the best way to have a protective order removed in this scenario is to contact an attorney, and if the alleged victim wants to have that protective order removed, the attorney can work with that individual through an affidavit to make it perfectly clear to the courts that the alleged victim is not afraid of this person, and as a result of that, there can be what's called a motion to modify the protective order that can be filed. The attorney can file a motion to modify bond conditions and a motion to modify that protective order, which will allow both parties to have contact with each other once again. Now, I know this sounds very confusing, but the number one thing I want you to understand is if you've got a protective order in place, don't violate it. That's the quickest way to get back in jail. If you want to modify that protective order, you need to make sure and contact an attorney. We would be happy to answer your questions if you're facing this type of situation, so don't hesitate to contact the Hampton Law Firm at 817-877-5200. I also promised you if we waited around to the end of this video, I would give you a free ebook, What to Do If You've Been Charged with a Domestic Violence Crime in Texas. All you have to do is click the link down below. We'll be happy to send you over that free resource. And thanks again for joining us today on our video series. I look forward to seeing you on our next video.